What the best companies do in many industries is something in between, where they come up with lots of different ideas. What about this? What about that? What about this? And then they show it to their customers and get feedback and start to develop it kind of together with the customers.
We're here today at the MFG meeting, and our guest is Mr. David Robertson, Professor of Management at the Wharton School of Business and author of the book Brick by Brick. And David, your remarks today began with a flashing of some of the iconic products that have come out on the market in recent years, and you were taking a show of hands from the audience about whether they thought they were innovations, yes or no. And I think it led to exposing what is a perception among the audience that an innovation has to be a product. And from there you went into the different types of things. Could you tell us a little bit about how you've identified the different types of innovation, what forms those can take?
Yeah, I think we're not served well by the way a lot of the business press talks about innovation, that they often talk about it as big revolutionary products that change industries. But the more I study innovation, the more humbled I am by the power of the small idea, that little ideas can have a big impact. And sometimes lots of little ideas together can make a big difference in the fortunes of a company. So I showed the iPod and I showed iTunes, but then I showed the Spin Pop, you know, this little lollipop that's automated so you don't have to spend so much effort licking the lollipop, right? And that led to the Spin Brush, which was a very low-end electric toothbrush that came out initially for $4.99, but ended up making its inventors $500 million when they sold the patents around the Spin Brush to Procter & Gamble. So that's a little idea, right? Let's make a cheap, low-end toothbrush. But it had a very big impact. And I think a lot of companies ignore those little improvements, not just to products, but maybe to services, to the customer experience, to the business model, to the channel to market. And all those things together can be much lower risk, but much higher impact than trying to chase the next big disruptive innovation in your market.
And that's a great point. I think sometimes it's a lot easier to innovate and create and ride that excitement than to maintain an iconic brand or a company brand that's been out there for decades. And you brought up the case of Lego, 70, 80-year company, whatever the history is. And how does a company stay relevant, and how do they innovate? And I know you've, in particular with Lego, you've studied that. What are some of the things you saw that Lego did that has sustained and grown their company in recent years?
Well, what I thought was interesting about Lego was that they've tried every way of thinking about innovation you can imagine. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it didn't. In fact, it almost put them out of business in 2003 and 2004. And so, the reason I wrote a book about Lego was not to write a book about a toy company, but to write a book about a company that experimented with innovation and really tried to do those disruptive innovations. And they worked for a while, but it almost put them out of business. And so Lego is still trying to find that next great play experience. They're still experimenting with all kinds of different types of play. But really the way they make their money is by selling a box of bricks. They're buying ABS plastic at $1 a pound and selling it to all of us at $50 a pound. But the reason that they make it so compelling is that they're surrounding it with a whole set of complementary innovations, like a game or a story or a web app, or of course last year with the Lego Movie, that make that box of bricks irresistible to kids.
And you used a great word during the course of this, which I think was humility. And I think sometimes when a brand or a company has tremendous success, they really think they got this. We'll take it from here, we're good at this. Now, certainly with end user public products, you can build a lifestyle around it. The movies, the apparel, whatever the case might be. We in the manufacturing arena aren't going to be selling movies or products or lunch kits anytime soon, but are there still things that you've seen that in a business arena, in a product arena, whether it be, you mentioned the banking sector, some other things that people can do that employ, as you noted, the cords instead of keys, bringing together a lot of different innovation processes and forms to their product to enhance their offering.
Sure, yeah, and I think they not only can, but they have an obligation to if they want to stay ahead of the competition. That if they're thinking, the companies coming to this trade show are experts in manufacturing technology. They understand where the technology is going, they understand what it can do and what it can't do, and they also, at these shows, have a chance to see other technologies around their own so they can become that full service set of information. You know, you come to me for this, and yes, if you need 100,000 of them, I'm your guy. But if you need 2 of them, you really should be looking at additive manufacturing techniques. And here's what we've been experimenting with, and here's the partner that I bring to this. And so here's how we put together a total production solution for what you're looking for. Or, you know, what kind of information is there available here that maybe can help you figure out what your demand is. Or, you know, here's how you might deploy it differently in your customer setting to really change the game for them in their markets. That you kind of have an obligation to be thinking about how is your product used, what's the context, and what other things can you do to make your customers successful.
Yeah. Well, I saw a lot of nodding heads in the audience today. I think a lot of people were really taken with your message. The name of the book is called Brick by Brick. Our guest is the co-author, Mr. David Robertson. And David, we really appreciate you being with us here at the MFG meeting.
Thanks for having me.
All right. For IMTS TV, I'm Bill Herman.